What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board Podcast. My name is Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Doing well, Steve. Doing well. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I am pretty good. It's been the weather here has sucked. It has been either just storming when it's hot, or like in the low 70s when it's not storming, and I'm just staring at my pool. Like, come on, please.
Need a little bit low 70s, not warm enough for you to hop in.
No, I mean I can. The problem is like I have a saltwater pool, so like there's a heater attached to it, and like I could crank that thing up to like 90. I need like a day's notice. But the problem is like when you're in 90-degree water, then you get out and it's 70 degrees outside. It is freaking cold.
Yeah, it is chilly at that point.
It's tough. But middle class problems, I guess.
Yeah. I was gonna say first world problems. Really.
Yeah.
At that point,
for real, not a big deal. More on the fun side of things. We got another mock today, and we're venturing into fantasy pros for the first time this year.
Yeah. Surprised it's been the first time we've done it this year. I think most of the time we end up on Sleeper, but it's good to try out the different sites. These are probably two of the bigger ones that people use for mock drafts.
If memory serves, Fantasy Pros doesn't allow for multi-person mock drafts until a certain part of the year, and I remember running that issue last year.
Why?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's either June or July that it starts. So we're obviously early July, and I was like, oh shit,
yeah.
So they're definitely open now. I don't remember what month it is, but they're definitely here, which is fun because they only draft one QB typically. Which is, I
think that's why we liked them a little bit. There's something else that was a little off as well, but that was a big bonus not having them draft multiple QBs.
Yeah, it allows you to execute a weighting strategy a little bit easier. Now, like with our league, and a year we tend to have like 3 or 4 people that draft 2 QBs, so we're like somewhere between Sleeper and Fantasy Pros, which is kind of annoying. But so we'll see what their ADP looks like and what the quarterback strategies are going to look like, and go from there. How's that sound?
Works for me, buddy. I'm excited to get it started here.
Yeah, let's play around. So Will is drafting in the 6. I lucked out and got the 12. Gotta love the turn. Not the most fun spot to be in, but let's see.
Here we are.
Yeah, everything started up here. We started the draft with Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Austin Eckler, and Cooper Kupp as the first 5 picks. So you are on the clock, my friend.
Yeah, exciting stuff here. Some interesting players still available. I'm looking, we've got receiver-wise, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb are some of the top of their ADP here. Still have all your tight ends, all of your quarterbacks. Running backs going a little bit more. Saquon, Jonathan Taylor still here, Bijan, Tony Pollard. So still some solid options at running back as well. I'm torn between, if I'm going receiver, it would be Tyreek. If I'm going running back, it would be Taylor or Bijan. Don't think I've had Bijan yet. I don't know how I feel about, like, I still have not come down on how I feel about, like, the middle of this first kind of tier or 2 of running backs. Like, McCaffrey's definitely the one, and then, if it's any type of PPR, Eckler just makes too much sense. But after that, I think it's like Taylor and Bijan are like kind of neck and neck for me. How does your running backs stack up?
So I think I do have Bijan next. I have been rising internally on Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'm just overcorrecting too far, but like Jonathan Taylor with the whole rushing quarterback, new offense, blah, 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 it just scares me, man. So like, I think I've put Henry above Taylor at this point. And then I probably leave it there. Like, to me, it's more like a JT versus Barkley conversation.
Yeah, that's probably close. And, JT, I mean, they're both really talented. JT, coming off of a really good year and has been healthier. But as you said, that rookie quarterback's going to be tough. And we'll see. But I think, as we talked about before, the rookie quarterback affects the running back position the least. Receivers and tight ends definitely get hit the hardest when they have a rookie quarterback. But I think I'm going to go here. I'm going to take Bijan. I haven't gotten him just yet. Middle of the first round, I think it's a good spot. I mean, Tyreek is would be a safer pick, I think. I like the upside of Bijan. I think we all think he could be a top 5 guy this year. So take a shot here, get a running back on the team, and we're going to go Bijan with my first pick. After Bijan, Saquon goes, Josh Jacobs, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Stephon Diggs to you.
So it would have been crazy, and I knew ADP-wise it wasn't going to happen, but it came close. If Kelce got to me, I think I would have played around and did a Kelce Mahomes stack.
Ooh,
for my team.
That would have been fun.
That would have been bold, and I would have hated that team, but that's also a pretty good stack to have,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really didn't think it's going to happen, but man, the picks just kept ticking away, and 110 for Kelsey's pretty late. Josh Jacobs went into 108. He's another one that I always just kind of write off because I look and just assume the Raiders are going to be worse because they lost Carr, but I think it's a downgrade to Jimmy G, but I don't think it's like a huge downgrade. And maybe he holds out, but I don't know. I feel like I've just written him off and probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
alas, it doesn't matter because he didn't make it to me. But Jonathan Taylor did.
He sure did.
That's
crazy,
isn't it? So on the turn, you got to be careful. I mean, we got JT, we got Pollard, we got Ramondre Stevenson at wide receiver. We got CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, all our quarterbacks and all our tight ends outside of Kelce. So this is it's a tough decision because you got such a long wait. I'd really like to go one of each, but I also didn't think Jonathan Taylor was going to get to me. So, while I'm worried about him, that's more like the 5-6 spot. I think at the end of the first is probably a pretty good spot for him. Although looking at Fantasy Pros ADP, they got him at 18, which would be in the middle of the second.
Who's that? You said Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor.
I just pulled up sleepers. It looks like he's about 11. So still lower than I think most of us were anticipating.
Yeah.
That's just based on how people are drafting him right now.
Yeah, different formats or different platforms, I guess. Have much different ADPs. So that makes it tough. I mean, JT, like a JT Stevenson or a JT Pollard, that's fantastic right here. Even Chubb or Derrick Henry. Oh, Derrick Henry. Oh man, this is difficult.
Taylor Henry stack?
Yeah, right? Like that, how do you pass that up? I don't think I'm gonna pass it up. I mean, like AJ Brown's here, that's a CeeDee Lamb. There's some good wide receivers, but man, JT and Derrick Henry, I would just lock that in. I'm not gonna pass that up.
That's tough to pass up.
It is. I'm gonna lock that in there. That's something else. We did have AJ Brown go after Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, so a couple of receivers go there. Was looking at a couple of guys in like a CeeDee Lamb or AJ Brown would have been nice to get back. But still quite a few good options here. Receiver, Devontae Adams still here. Amon-Ra St. Brown still here. When we look at tight end, still have everyone but Kelce, and then still have all the quarterbacks. I'm not one to usually go quarterback, but this is probably a decent spot for Mahomes. I think usually you see him going a little bit earlier, so not a bad spot for Mahomes, especially given that I've got that top running back that you hope for with Bijan. But I just can't pull the trigger on him right here. So looking at running back, I've got Nick Chubb, probably the top running back I'd be looking at here. Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne are all still there, but they're probably all, I do have them below Chubb and all guys that are probably more in the third round. I think there's a chance one of that gang would get back to me here. So it's going to be between Adams and Chubb, I think, for me. Amon-Ra, Waddle, Olave, all good options as well, but there's just still some upside to Adams that not many, he is what he is. Like, we know what he's going to be. The quarterback situation is definitely a little worrisome, but he is, been perennially a top, first round pick. I think he'll settle himself in here to the middle of the second round. So weighing between the two of those, I'll try to strike a balance here, and we'll go Adams. It's pretty close, but PPR, I think Chubb's going to get a little bit more work this year, but I think that hurts him slightly and benefits Davante Adams a little bit. So half PPR, standard, maybe a good Chubb, but we'll go Adams here and see what gets back to me on the flip side. So Amon-Ra goes next. Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. And at the turn with Breece Hall, Devonta Smith, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Najee Harris. So, man, Pat Mahomes is still here. It is very enticing. But, man, like you still got Travis Etienne, who's someone that I think is a great pick at this spot. And I don't see many leagues where there's no quarterbacks taking the first 2 rounds. Do you, Steve?
No, I'm like, I know Fantasy Pros, they get their ADP from a lot of different sources, I believe. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of jarring to see, like, Kelsey fell so far, Jonathan Taylor fell far, Hawkinson went above Andrews, which might not be an ADP thing. Like, that might just be a freak thing that happens. But also, like, I would assume there's, like, a round between them. And then, the quarterbacks, usually you have 3 in our, what we've done. We've had 3 off the board by now, because I think Mahomes usually goes like top of the second, and then Allen and Hurts back of the second, early third. Maybe I can get Mahomes. You go ahead and draft Hurts or something.
You may get him. I'm going to pass here just because for me, Etienne and Higgins, I think are too good to pass up here. Both of them, I think, should be going probably a little bit earlier in this round. So it's not that big of a fall, but just being able to get them, and I'm going to go with the running backs. I think there is a bigger drop off at running back than receiver coming up here. See if I can kind of line up where I'd be for 7. So we'll go another 12 picks. That's interesting now. Looking at like where that would fall, there is some decent running backs still there. Receivers are not as much. You know what? I'm gonna gamble and see what happens here. I'm gonna go ahead and instead of taking Etienne, I'm gonna go take T. Higgins. Gonna get another good receiver to pair with Javonte Adams and see what running back gets back to me. Just playing the ADP game, I think there's a chance there's going to be some that get back. Travis Etienne goes. Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 quarterbacks, Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, and then Aaron Jones. Back to you.
So my confidence is restored.
Joe Mixon?
No, not Mixon. In the ADP of Fantasy Pros of what they're doing. So that was a reach on Hawkinson. The ADP for Andrews, they have it 30 and Hawkinson at 51. So they played it like someone wanted Hawkinson.
Yeah, like
jumped
team it up. 3 is a big
big Vikings fan.
Lions fan.
Yeah, something like that. So big jump. Now for me, Josh Allen's still on the board, man. And that's pretty elite to be grabbing here. That's hard to pass up. Now the question is, if quarterbacks are falling, can I wait another round? This is the problem of being on the turn. It's really hard to play that game.
You can't really. You got to get the guy you want here in the next 24 picks.
Given it's weighted or not weighted, people are waiting, I would feel more confident getting somebody in what Fantasy Pros has as tier 2, being Lamar, Burrow, Fields, Herbert, or Lawrence. Like, I think one of them would get back to me. But Josh Allen is, a tier above, both in the rankings here and in reality. Like, that is just a very good quarterback to have. But let's take a look here. We got Kenneth Walker, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers. Like, I'm okay passing on all of them. At wide receiver, Keenan Allen, DK Metcalf, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin. At tight end, we had the big 2 go. So, it's really just a matter of, do you want to draft an early quarterback? I think if I was in a real draft, I'd rather just wait, because I'd rather have like Metcalf and Amari Cooper plus Fields or Lawrence over Josh Allen, Metcalf, and somebody later, Christian Kirk. But you got to experiment sometimes, right? So I'm going to draft Josh Allen. I don't think I've done a mock where I've gotten an early quarterback yet. Not this early. So let's just see what happens. We're going to go ahead and lock him in, and we're going to grab a wide receiver. And I think I always just bypass Keenan Allen, and I probably shouldn't, but his upside's just not there. not like a DK Metcalf. So I'm going to take my shot on Mr. Metcalf there. Another year with Geno, another year with that offense, getting more familiar with him, and hopefully they take another step forward. So we'll lock him in there, get my first wide receiver. Keenan Allen goes off the board right after that. And then Calvin Ridley, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, and DJ Moore. You're back on the clock.
Yeah, so my running back gamble, definitely hurt a bit there. Kenneth Walker is interesting still here, but I was hoping for like Miles or Dobbins, unfortunately. So that definitely hurts a bit. I almost want to go with one of the receivers that are still here in like a Cooper or a Debo, and then just see what I can get at the running back position next round, but be able to stack up 3 kind of top 20-ish receivers. So if we're looking, just still have all the tight ends, so those top 3. Lamar's still here, which is enticing as well. In the middle of the 4th round would be, I guess, Lamar. Be looking at Lamar, Amari Cooper, and Debo, or a Kenneth Walker. The running backs just aren't super enticing. I wouldn't mind just getting one that's a little bit lower down on a tier. So I'm gonna go with either Lamar or like an Amari Cooper. Let's we're jumping over to Fantasy Pros. They end up taking quarterbacks later. We're both going to end up taking early quarterbacks here, early-ish quarterbacks. I'm take a shot on Lamar. I think he's one of the few guys that, besides those big 3, has a shot to be the number 1 quarterback or really fit in there, especially with the way the passing volume could change. So we'll go ahead and nab Lamar here. After Lamar, Kenneth Walker goes. And then a lot of receivers. So that works out in my favor. Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, Debo Samuel. Then Jerry Jeudy and Christian Watson are the turn with team 1. Drake London, Cam Akers, Christian Kirk, and Brandon Ayuk. So from a running back standpoint, that definitely worked out. If we take a look here, still have pretty much all the quarterbacks available. You and I don't really need them at this point. Still have most of the tight ends available. Kittle, Goddard, Pitts, top guys on the ADP there. At receiver, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman, Deontay Johnson. So still some solid receiving options there. Running back does dry up a bit. It's still what we saw there. Dameon Pierce, who I'm pretty out on this year. I think this is probably not a bad spot for him, though, in the 5th round. But it's not someone that I'm thrilled about this year. I am, as I think we've seen earlier, a little higher on a Devin Singletary. I think that's going to be a more of a split backfield. I just don't think it's going to be a great team, or have a ton of value there. But we'll see. Rashaad White there, pretty similar. James Conner, Alexander Madison, probably be a shot to call here. I think he's got maybe more of the biggest upside of the bunch there. If I look back, though, there is quite a few running backs taken already. So I wonder, because I'm not in love with any of these guys, if I go ahead and just lock in another receiver here and kind of go with like a hero RB with that first pick of mine. And if I was looking at receiver, I'd be looking at a Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin, Pittman. There's really not anybody that calls out besides Godwin. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab Alexander Madison. I think he's the one that I like the best. A couple of, decent, safer options that I wouldn't mind getting in the next round. But take a shot on a guy that, could really step in and be, top 20, maybe even top 10, running back if he gets the full bulk and he can really step into his own. A lot of receivers go off the board here. DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, Terry McLaurin. So I hope you weren't hoping for a receiver to get back to you. And Joe Burrow goes right before you, so that probably helped you out a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of feelings right now. To start, my quarterbacks, going later thought definitely played out. Would have much rather had like Keenan Allen and Metcalf with Herbert or Fields right now compared to Josh Allen earlier. So not too happy about that. I also, when the picks are running, I was thinking it was funny that we talked up how we could play the late round strategy easier on Fantasy Pros, and then both of us drafted quarterbacks early.
We both drafted them early, yeah.
So we'll have to double check later and see what quarterbacks are around. But it's a it's a tough spot. Like, as you said, like not in love with everyone here. The wide receivers, I'm kind of with you on Pierce. I think his ADP here is okay. We're definitely in that dead zone though, where a lot of people look okay and they're not. Rashaad White, James Conner, DeAndre Swift is probably the most interesting right now. That ton of upside there. And I don't know what his floor. I mean, his floor is hurt like normal, but assuming health, his floor is RBBC, and we've seen the Eagles produce some decent running backs even under those conditions. So not super concerned about that. Terry McLaurin or Deontay Johnson, I would have liked, so that's a shame. But Pittman, I'm not interested in. Mike Williams isn't bad. Hollywood Brown could be great, but the Kyler injury, we've talked about that before. Johan Dotson, another interesting option. And then looking at the tight end, we still got most of our options here. No one went off the board. So we got Kittle, Goddard, Pitts, Waller, like you name it, outside of the top two plus Hawkinson, and you're good to go. So that makes it kind of tough because part of me wants to take Goddard here. Part of me wants to take maybe Kyle Pitts here. But then I look and see Hollywood Brown. And it's like, well, he would be nice here, like a Hollywood Swift.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like that, I think, more. But I also, dead zone running backs, man, you really should be avoiding these people. But I think I am going to take my shot on... No, this is the bad part about being on the turn. You got back-to-back picks. I can't just pick one and then see who gets back to me. We'll roll the dice a little. Yeah, we'll just keep on rolling the dice. We'll lock in Hollywood Brown. And we'll see. I'm sure he could produce while Kyler's out, but if Kyler's good to go week 1, 2, or 3, then I'd imagine Hollywood's going to be a top wide receiver, and the end of the 5th round is going to be a big steal for him. Running back, I really would like to add DeAndre Swift. It really worries me drafting running backs here anymore. It's just such a dead zone, as it's called. Like, they just look so enticing and then they never work out. And then I could wait on my next turn and maybe get like a Rashaad Penny, like much later, that has the same kind of opportunity. So yeah, I'm gonna bypass it. I'm gonna draft Dallas Goedert. I don't know if if push comes to shove, I would draft Goddard over Pitts. But I trust Goddard in that situation more. Like, I know I'm getting the better offense. I know I'm getting the better quarterback. He doesn't have the elite talent upside that Pitts does. But everything else is there. So I'm locking in Goddard, get my tight end off the board here as well. Dalvin Cook goes right after that. Dameon Pierce, Mike Williams, George Kittle, and Justin Fields.
All right. So still some decent options at those running back receiver positions. I don't mind waiting on tight end. Pitts is, obviously a nice side option, but still Freiermuth there, Evan Ingram, and some of the lesser guys. So in order to kind of pass that off to be able to get some more of these better shots at receiver and running back. Receiver, Pittman's top of the board here. Mike Evans, another interesting option. I think people are completely fading him. And in the offense, which, some of the videos we've seen from Mr. Baker Mayfield, I think maybe lend themselves to why people are fading the offense. But I do think that there's value there and that there is going to be, one or multiple players on that offense that are going to be really good picks for people because of where you get them. So Evans is interesting. Some other young guys in there, Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson are interesting as well. If we go over to the running back position, James Conner's, kind of that tried and true guy that I think we've seen sitting here for a while, as well as Rashaad White, also in that Tampa offense, someone that I think really could be an every down back. I mean, they really don't have a ton behind him at this point. So I think he, really got hurt by the offensive line being dinged up last year and the team just not being great. But I feel like he is someone that could really step in as well. And given that I waited a bit on running back, I do want to kind of double tap here. So I'm going to go ahead and take Rashaad White, someone I don't think I've taken just yet. But getting him in Madison gives me kind of 2 really good shots at getting a top tier running back or a good number 2 running back. After him, Justin Herbert goes, Traylon Burks, Michael Pittman, DeAndre Swift, Rashaad Penny, and then Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts, Rashad Bateman, Jackson Smith and Jigma, and Mike Evans off the board. So back to me here. James Conner still on the board, which is very enticing at the running back position. Kamara's still there as well. Another big upside shot, but I've got a couple of upside guys. I still just don't know what to make of Alvin Kamara because it seems like if he plays, he's going to be awesome. He's finished as a top 5 guy 3 of his first 4 years, but then it kind of came down to earth a little bit more, 10th and then 18th last year. So it's interesting. Connor, I just think, is going to get all the work there. He's going to get some receptions as well. So they would be the 2 I'd be looking at running back. Receiver, Jahan Dotson still there, Jordan Addison, Brandon Cooks. It probably would come down to I'd be looking at Dotson if I'm going with a receiver, and if I'm going with a running back. Now it's interesting to say, Jahan Dotson, James Conner, or Alvin Kamara. It's just last year it'd be crazy to be thinking about them in the same breath, right?
Yeah, you would think so. That's wild, man.
It's insane, right, to see that there. But yeah, I think I'm going to try to keep some balance because I do think the receiver position drops off a little more here, and still only have 2. I'm going to grab Jahan Dotson, see what's available at the 2 there with my next pick, but keep some flexibility. So Jahan Dotson off the board. George Pickens goes next. Trevor Lawrence, Kadarius Toney, David Montgomery, and then Jordan Addison for your pick.
Yeah, it's a real shame that David Montgomery went. I was eyeing him up.
Yeah.
Dotson would have been nice. Trevor Lawrence down here at the 708 is a nice value. All these quarterbacks.
Kicking ourselves not taking a quarterback, right?
Yeah. Justin Fields and Herbert right on your saddling your last pick. Like, that's all great value there. I'm glad I went with Goddard. Pitts and Waller went off the board, so he'd probably go on. So I can just focus on the running backs and the wide receivers at this point. At the running back position, we got James Conner, you mentioned. Very interesting volume play. Pacheco, who could be pretty good for fantasy. I just tend to be avoiding him. Just the Kansas City running back situation has not been great for fantasy for a while. Like, you have good, like McKinnon has had good stretches, and Pacheco had good stretches, and in year past, like Damian Williams, they have good stretches, but they don't have good total years, seemingly. In fact, I can't even think of the last real good year we got from a Kansas City running back. You cycle through so many players, you kind of forget. Like, who was in that?
Kareem Hunt, maybe?
Yeah, there you go, Hunt. I was going to say, who was in that pre-Damian Williams era? Yep. So I was just jumping back to Jamal Charles, and there's obviously a big section in there I missed. So yeah, probably Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy was there for a bit. I'm trying to remember if he hit hard. I don't
think he did anything.
Yeah.
I don't think, but yeah, I'd have to dig into that. Darrell Williams was there for a while.
Darrell Williams, yeah.
Who was that? There was that preseason darling, Darwin Thompson.
Darwin Thompson, yeah.
Everyone loved him.
That was more like a dynasty draft buzz.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's why I'm worried about Pacheco. It's just been so long. Javonte Williams has got some hype recently about potentially being ready for week 1. That just smells like a trap. And I don't know. I don't know if I can roll the dice. And then Kamara's here, like you said. So that's tough. At the wide receiver position, we got Cook, Sutton, Juju, Gabe Davis, Jacoby Myers, Michael Thompson, Quentin Johnson. So like some fine enough players. No one that's really jumping off at me. Maybe Cooks or Sutton. So I guess I'll stick with my normal strategy. I'll grab one of each. I'm going to draft Alvin Kamara. I don't think I would draft him in a real draft. I hate playing that suspension injury kind of game. I get burned every time I play that stupid game.
Pick the right ones, man.
Yeah, no. If I'm just better at picking, it's going to be a problem. But the longer this drags on, I think the more likely you won't see a suspension this year. The opposite end of that is the longer it drags on, the more likely he'll be suspended for the playoff season, which is not ideal at all. But I'm going to take my shot. and just see what happens with this team. If he does play the year, having Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara, that's
It'll be something.
that's pretty elite. So we'll lock him in, and then we'll take a look at the wide receiver position here. So far, I got Metcalf and I got Hollywood Brown. I think I do want the safety of Brandon Cooks in this spot here. Sutton calls out as having higher upside, but I think Cooks is due for just a solid season. I could use just a solid wide receiver on this team. Part of me wants to take a shot on Gabe Davis and just tag him up with Josh Allen. Have a bit of a nitro button there, but we'll play it safe. We'll draft Brandon Cooks, and then we'll see what happens. Gabe Davis goes right after that. Michael Thomas, James Conner, 804, Cortland Sutton, nice. And then Pacheco.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Not meant to be, unfortunately. So we'll look at some of the guys here. We still have, a lot of the tight ends here. Freiermuth, Ingram, both still there. Freiermuth is definitely very enticing here. Looking at the board, though, there are 4 of 5 teams behind me that have one already. So I am going to probably risk it. It's tough, though, because if I want him, I probably should take him, but we'll see what else is here. He's definitely in consideration. Receivers, Quentin Johnston would probably be the guy here. Juju Smith-Schuster is there. Jacoby Myers, Eli Moore, Rondale Moore. So I'd be looking for, kind of taking one of the upside shots with him or like a Zay Flowers. Quentin Johnston, I think, has looked pretty good at camp. I've read some reports that he's kind of separated himself from the pack and he's, pretty clearly the third guy. And they're a team that's going to run a lot of third receiver sets. So if he can get himself as the third guy, he's going to be on the field a lot. If we look back at the running back position, Javonte Williams is an enticing option, but yet again, another injury that we're really still not certain about. Most recently here, looks like Jeff Legwold of ESPN reports that he said he's ready to go and intends to be cleared by the start of training camp. So, who knows? So he, could be a huge upside pick if you get him this late in the draft. So Javonte Williams is an interesting option. I feel like probably wait on the receiver. Quentin Johnston probably gets back. So for me, it's Javonte Williams or taking Pat Freiermuth. I think, I'll take the shot on Javonte. I don't think I've drafted him anywhere this year. And I usually, don't mind missing on Freiermuth if I can always get another receiver, another option there. So after Javonte, Quentin Johnston goes next. So he does not get back to me, unfortunately. But we have 4 straight quarterbacks goes. Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott. Don't see that too often. All these teams have been waiting on quarterback, and they all force themselves into a run together.
Yeah, so that's worth noting. Well, at this point, every team has a quarterback by the end of the 8th round. Yeah, which actually, it sounds similar to Sleeper. Like, I feel like all the quarterbacks are higher, but this Daniel Jones, Watson, Geno tier might be a little bit lower.
Yeah.
And maybe it all kind of evens out, which is odd. Interesting.
Yeah, very. After them, Antonio Gibson starts the 9th round. James Cook, Tyler Algier, Damian Harris, Elijah Moore. So interestingly, Quentin Johnston was really the only guy I was interested out of that bunch. So still having Freiermuth on the board, likely going to be the pick, but we'll just take a gander here. Top guys available: AJ Dillon, Brian Robinson, Khalil Herbert, Najee Pirine, Jamal Williams. Interesting options, but I don't think I can pass up on Freiermuth for them. Back to the receivers, it was really Quentin Johnston that was interesting to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and nab my tight end, and this late in the draft, I think it's a good spot to get a guy in Freiermuth that I think he could be a double-digit touchdown guy. I think he has the build for that. He's going to be using the offense. I think people are questioning how the receiving core is going to be divvied up maybe a little bit, but Freiermuth, I think, is pretty set there. And you have to project Pickett to take a bit of a step forward, but I think he looked good enough last year, and I think that is good enough for a good fantasy tight end. Maybe you don't have a Travis Kelce, but you can get a pretty solid, fantasy tight end that really could bump up into that top 5. So, gonna go ahead and draft Pat Freiermuth here in the 9th. Get my tight end out of the way. After him, Khalil Herbert, Zay Flowers, Juju Smith-Schuster, Rondale Moore, and Jameson Williams.
It's funny how changing platforms changes the people you draft sometimes.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the ADP is kind of what you're playing off of to a degree with this because you're using the site here, right? You can't bring your own. And you don't want to have the picks going forever.
Yeah. Like Freiermuth, I don't think you've picked all year.
No.
Like I have not gotten Henry or Metcalf or Kamara, and now I'm sitting here looking at Brian Robinson. Like that's kind of interesting. Normally I draft Samaje Perine here, and I still think he's a good pick. But the Javonte room, the news is, as we both said, more positive. Mm-hmm. Whether that's a trap or not, who knows? But if he's out there, whether or not he's 100%, that's going to hurt Samaje Perine. Perine having the full workload or just being the one is different than him being a 1B for half the season and then just solidified as a 2 for the rest of the half of the season. But we got other running backs. We got Zach Charbonnet here. McKinnon, who feels gross to draft, but always seems to be producing fantasy at some point in the year. Just a matter of when. Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, if you want to take a shot in Miami. A-Chain and Mostert, both there as well. Let's see, at the wide receiver position, my team is balanced, so I don't really need to go with anything in particular. Jacoby Myers, Darnell Mooney, Allen Lazard, Nico Collins, A. Jones. Not the best grouping in the world here. So I think I'll stick with my plan and grab one of each. It's just a matter of who that one is. I think I am going to go ahead and take Brian Robinson here. Haven't drafted him a lot. I think, he's got just as much chance as being the top guy in Washington as Gibson does. You could see Robinson being, first and second down work, and then Gibson getting third round work. You don't know. It was Charbonnet is a bit of a hesitation here. But the running back situation in Seattle is always messy. They drafted Penny and they didn't use him a lot. Well, he got hurt at some point as well. And I don't know. I just don't feel like I want to play that game. I could see Charbonnet I could see him being great for fantasy. I could see him just not being used much at all in year one. Pete Carroll is just annoying to deal with in that sense. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Mr. Brian Robinson here, add another running back. And then the wide receivers are gross. There is no one here that is of a ton of interest. Jacoby Myers, he's, second or third fiddle on a team that's not going to be passing a lot. Darnell Mooney's kind of interesting. Maybe like a post-hype sleeper that a lot of people aren't talking about. Allen Lazard's not bad. Nico Collins, I really don't want to touch. Zay Jones could be fine, but Ridley's return might be a problem for that. Boyd, I'm not interested in. Thielen's okay, but not a ton of upside to him. Donovan Peoples-Jones is no. Romeo Doubs is probably the next one on the list that I find interesting, just given he's got some hype. OBJ, if you want to take a shot in Baltimore somewhere. I think I'm going to take a shot on a post-hype sleeper in Darnell Mooney, hoping that, another year with Fields, maybe DJ Moore taking some pressure off of him, makes him better, because Darnell Mooney was better when he was a wide receiver 2 and Allen Robinson was the one for that team. So maybe, sometimes you run into situations like that, like Eric Decker. Eric Decker was a good wide receiver 2 for a little while. He's a wide receiver 1. He wasn't as good. It could be a lot of circumstances that contribute to that. But we'll see. I think he's at this stage in the 10th round, it's a fine dart to throw. For an offense, I think that could take a step forward. It all depends on Mr. Fields. So we'll lock him in. Romeo Doubs does go right after. A.J. Dillon, Allen Lazard, Charbonnet there at the 10:05, and Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, solid spot there for Charbonnet. I mean, like we were saying, I think he's going to get a lot of work, so that's not a bad pick there. Taking a look at the options here. Running backs, Samaje Perine's still there, and it's interesting, given that I have the one there. I don't usually like to grab handcuffs. It's probably a little too early, but if there's not anybody else that I'm really in love with, it's not a bad option here. Jamal Williams, not a bad, is someone I'd be interested in for New Orleans. Could be the one to start at least. Jerick McKinnon, Evan Singletary, some guys that I like at that position. At wide receiver, Jacoby Myers, Nico Collins. Odell is probably a guy that I'd be interested in here. Sky Moore, another guy that's solid. I'm going to take a shot on Odell. So there's quite a few running backs I like, but as I've noticed the last couple rounds, some receivers have gone earlier than their ADP was suggested here. So I like getting one of the receivers here to pair up with Lamar, and who knows what Odell has left. But if he is anything close to what he was before he got hurt in that Super Bowl, I think he could be really good there, and that could be a pretty big passing offense. So we'll go ahead and nab Odell Beckham, get myself another receiver there since I only had 3 going into it. Jacoby Myers goes next, Sky Moore, Jamal Williams, Samaje Perine, and Devon Achane end the round. Elijah Mitchell, Zay Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, Jerick McKinnon, and Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, pretty good pick there at that point too, to get back to me. So not really thrilled with many of the receivers here. Nico Collins, Adam Thielen, Peoples-Jones, Chark, Gallup, Renfro. So we'll go back to running back. Jeff Wilson's still here. Devin Singletary is a guy that I mentioned I like a lot. Foreman still there as a good option in Chicago. So I'm going to go ahead and have Devin Singletary, someone that I talked about partially why I'm not a huge fan of getting Pierce. I mean, I think where he went was pretty fair value. But at this stage, this late in the draft, I think Singletary can get 40% of the work and be a 1B or 2, but pretty close. So I like getting a shot here on Singletary. We'll take him. After him, Jawan Johnson goes, Nico Collins, David Njoku, Michael Gallup, and Dalton Schultz. So I hope you weren't hoping to get your second tight end because we have a little tight end run there.
No, but I mean, Chig and Cole Kmet and Dulcich are all still here. So,
yeah,
the late round tight end strategy would have worked out really well here. Would I have rather had, Jordan Addison and Chig or Dallas Goedert and whoever I'm about to draft, Adam Thielen? It's an interesting thought experiment to do. But we're going to take a look, wide receivers. We do have Thielen, like I said, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Chark, Renfro, Osborne, Alec Pierce, Wendell Robinson, Rashaad, Claypool, Isaiah Hodgins, kind of interesting, Van Jefferson. Not the best in the world there. At running back, we got Jeff Wilson, we got Mostert, we got Foreman. All guys that if you want to, Rashaad Johnson, all guys, or if you want to take your shot on the winner there, that would be nice. Will, I sent you some data this week about running backs in the zone, and basically, like if you want to draft a later running back, like in this round, you don't want the guy ahead of them to be in like the first 3 rounds. You'd rather them be in the middle. So you have a Wilson, Mostert, Achane. Like they're all good guys to throw a dart on because they're all going in the middle and one of them could break out. Herbert, Foreman, and Rashaad Johnson, same thing. Like they're all in the middle. So you take your shot there. Someone like a Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, that's rougher, where like Warren could be useful for fantasy, but he's not likely to exceed his expectations because he's got such a highly drafted running back ahead of him. Just some interesting things. I mean, I think everyone knows, like, throw a dart on a guy in an iffy situation, but there's data to back that, which is fun. I want to throw 2 darts, really. Like, I wouldn't mind taking a shot on both of these teams, but I also don't want too many running backs, especially later round running backs, and I'm already gambling on Brian Robinson and Kamara. So I think I'm just going to stick with the plan, draft one of each. Miami's got the better offense, and I think, if it's not A-Chain, then I think it's Mostert that's going to be the guy. So we're going to lock in Mr. Mostert, probably the last running back I draft, unless some value falls. And then looking at the wide receiver position, it's a little gross and not a lot here. I think I'm going to draft a New York guy. I'm just between Isaiah Hodgins and Wandale Robinson. Hodgins looked good last year. Wandale coming into his second year, and you like second year breakout kind of guys. And Wandale's got better draft capital as well, a higher pedigree to him. But I think I'm going to go with Hodgins. It just feels gross. Like, I don't know. I don't see a ton of upside in Hodgins, but it's not like Robinson has sky high upside either. Yeah, I'll do it. I mean, I've been drafting a lot of people I would normally draft, so we'll draft Isaiah Hodgins here. Lock in another wide receiver. 2 dart throws there, one for a wide receiver in New York and one on a running back in Miami. And we had a running back run there. Kendre Miller, Jeff Wilson, Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, and Tank Bigsby all go off the board.
Yeah, a couple of guys I was looking at there, so bummed to see a couple guys. And Kenny Gainwell, Jalen Warren go off the board. Some rookies there as well. So tough to see that. Tough guys here for running back. Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard. We've got Patterson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on a bad pick here. I think a lot of people are out on him, and warranted. He might be done. We'll see. You'd think that it's got to make or break this year. Not, he's probably going to end up somewhere else. But he still has a chance. I mean, he's really competing with guys that don't have a ton of draft capital, and he still is a first-round pick. So there's something to be said about that. Gus Edwards, Jerome Ford, Rashaad Johnson. So interesting options, and I've got quite a few there already at that position. So I'm going to go ahead and take an upside shot on a guy in a Rashid Shaheed. He's been getting a lot of hype, and I think he's positioned himself to be the third receiver there, but if we get another Michael Thomas fall apart like we have in the past, he could easily step in and kind of be the number 2 there for Chris Olave. So I'm going to take a shot here on a Rashid Shaheed, grabbing him, see what I can get back here. Foreman goes next, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Rashee Rice, Rashaad Johnson. Some quarterbacks are going here again. Anthony Richardson, KJ Osborne, Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, and Chuba Hubbard. So back here for me, still got some other guys that I like. Donovan Peoples-Jones is an interesting option at receiver. Alec Pierce, we're not thrilled about the quarterback position there. I want a Robinson coming off of an injury. Do we know where he stands? I know he got hurt in the year, and I think they're hoping that he's ready to start the year.
I don't think I've heard anything.
No,
I don't think so.
Definitely, concerning. Not maybe not something you want to jump on too much. And I feel pretty solid at running back. I've got 3, 4, 5 on the roster, so could use maybe one more, but feel pretty good there. I'm going to go ahead and grab a guy that I really like in Van Jefferson. Just get another receiver, and then I'll have an option to go either another receiver or running back with my last pick. So. Van Jefferson, I think he's got a really good opportunity in LA. Did you see the reports that someone reported the Rams were shopping and aggressively trying to trade Matt Stafford this offseason?
I did not, but that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and I mean, you're probably not very marketable at this point, but it's just interesting because it seemed like they were like, let's run it back with him, but maybe that wasn't their original plan.
Yeah, I don't think they're good enough to run it back at this point. And I've been saying for 2 years now, I think the end's near for Stafford. So it doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't surprise me they didn't find somebody. What I'm more curious about is what they would have done. I don't know who the other quarterback on that roster is.
Yeah, they don't have Baker to save the day again.
Of course, no, they do not.
But alas, here in a redraft league, there's targets to be had, and Jefferson, I think, is going to get the first shot at that. And I've liked him since he's been drafted. So finally really had a chance for a lot of targets. So we're going to go ahead and grab Mr. Van Jefferson. Chig, our boy Chig goes next. Jonathan Mingo, Jerome Ford, Adam Thielen, and Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, so I got 2 picks left. Interesting that Wandale Robinson's still on the board.
Yeah.
Could have just waited on that. But we'll take a glance at the running backs here. Cordarrelle Patterson, Michael Carter, Gus Edwards. That is interesting late round. Chase Edmonds, Josh Kelly, Zamir White, Pierre Strong, kind of. Kareem Hunt still without a team. Forgot about him. Isaiah Spiller, it's kind of gross down here. Just going to glance at quarterbacks here. Russell Wilson's still on the board. Yeah. Stafford, Derek Carr, Kyler Murray. That's a That's a league winner if you take Kyler Murray here in the 13th
Yeah,
round.
he
That's your guy.
hits.
Yeah. Komet and Dolchitz still here. Trey McBride, Higbee. So I want Gus Edwards. I really don't want to take a shot on. I want 2 wide receivers, but like Gus Edwards, what was the Dobbins news that he might hold out? He wants more money. Like I'm sure they'll get that sorted out, but if not, Gus Edwards is pretty interesting. Are there 2 running back or are there 2 wide receivers I want? I don't want the New York guys. Darius Slayton's here too. I should have just waited and grabbed the wide receiver for New York later. Renfro, no. Chark's not bad. Peoples-Jones, no. Alex Pierce at this point as like a deep threat kind of guy. That's somewhat interesting. Curtis Samuel, no. Claypool, no. Josh Palmer, Mechie, MVS, Paris Campbell, Allen Robinson. There's a lot of no's. I'm not really interested in any of these guys. Corey Davis, Tim Patrick, Khalil Shakir. Yeah, not really. So that's what I'll do. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to grab Gus Edwards as a running back shot. And then I'm going to grab Alex Pierce as like a deep target kind of guy. And, maybe he hits out there. Cordell Patterson, Mechie, Cole Kmet, Jared Goff, and DJ Chark go off the board right before your pick there.
All right, so back to me. I'm going to go with another receiver or running back. So there's a couple of guys that I've got my eye on at each. At the receiver position, Donovan Peoples-Jones is still here, and I know a lot of people are iffy about the offense as a whole, but if it is a good offense, Peoples-Jones is in line to likely be the number 2. I think we're both hopeful Elijah Moore can maybe step into that, but as of right now, I think Peoples-Jones has kind of the inside track to that. So this late, it's not a bad pick. Another receiver would be Robert Woods, would be a solid option. A lot of young guys there. He's the only one that really has a ton of experience in Houston. Going back to the running back position, some interesting names. Chase Brown, a rookie in Cincinnati. If there is any issues with Mixon, Chase Brown could step in and be the guy. And Kareem Hunt's still here. It's late in the draft, but he's a guy that you could grab, see if he lands on a team, has a role early, and then can kind of pretty easily move on from him. So they're both interesting options here. Wanting to get just another running back at this point. Then just take a shot here on a Kareem Hunt. He's a guy that wouldn't mind drafting, and then like you said, we'll see if he lands anywhere. If there's doesn't have anything, then you can easily cut him and have an open roster spot for the waivers. So go ahead and I will lock in Mr. Kareem Hunt. After Kareem, it is Michael Carter, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Tajay Spears, Dalton Kincaid, and Tyler Higbee. So 2 tight ends to round it out.
Yes, I forgot about the grade. What grade did it happen to give you?
Yeah, so I got a B/84.
Okay, I got a B. I think it was an 86. I made it go away, but
close
I think
ones.
it was an 86.
Yeah, I had to. I decided to try to remember it because I had to read those last few picks off, so I figured it wouldn't give it back to me.
Yes, 86 out of 100. That actually gives you quite a bit of a breakdown here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, projected standings. I'm in 5th and you're in 6th, and there's a 7-point difference. Yeah, interesting.
How about that?
Interesting. Now, how do I get back to the draft board? Okay, right there. Okay, we're good. Okay, so Will drafting out of the 6th. I was drafting out of the 12th. You want to go over your team first?
Yes. No, I'm gonna get back to the draft board because I popped over to where we were. So, yes. So, team, I've got quarterback Lamar Jackson, running backs Bijan Robinson, Rashaad White, Alexander Madison, Javonte Williams, Devin Singletary, and Kareem Hunt. At wide receiver, Devontae Adams, T. Higgins, Jahan Dotson, Odell Beckham, Rashid Shaheed, Van Jefferson, and at tight end, Pat Freiermuth. Definitely not a team that I got a lot of guys that I usually take, so it feels a little weird. I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, kind of just going off beat with a lot of these players. Would probably need to make sure I hit on a few of those running backs. Definitely a little shaky, especially with Bijan not being, guaranteed, right? Probably a technically low floor because we don't know. We haven't seen him do it yet, but get in Lamar, with Devontae Adams and T. Higgins is a really good base to have behind Bijan. And then just need to hit on some RB2 and flex spots. But Freiermuth late, I think, really helped as well. What about you? How do you feel about yours?
Yeah, so quarterback, I got Josh Allen. Running back, we got Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Brian Robinson, Raheem Mostert, Gus Edwards at wide receiver, DK Metcalf, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Brandon Cooks, Darnell Mooney, Isaiah Hodgins, Alec Pierce, and then at tight end, Dallas Goedert. I don't mind it. There's a lot of risk with this team if Derrick Henry gets hurt because he's older in the workload, how Kyler impacts Hollywood, Alvin Kamara's suspension, Brian Robertson stepping up. This is like, there's plenty of risk, but there's a lot of upside. I look at the team and I think, it's the classic, you draft a tight end or a quarterback early, and I look and I say, well, I wish my wide receivers are better because I'm not really comfortable with Metcalf, and Hollywood is my 1 and 2. But then I got Josh Allen. It's like, oh yeah, he's going to give me a lot of points. So he ideally makes up for that gap. But yeah, I mean, I made the commentary throughout the draft. Like, I think I'd rather have, like Josh Allen, Metcalf, and Keenan Allen. Or no, sorry. Keenan Allen, Metcalf, Marquise, and Fields or Herbert instead of Josh Allen. Like they got similar upside. Like I know Josh Allen's the elite and higher odds of being the QB1, but like Herbert and Fields could be right there. So like that kind of worries me. And I mentioned earlier, like Dallas Goedert or Chig. That's an interesting thought experiment too. So like there are some things that I would probably do different. I mean, as I also said throughout the draft, I think there's people here I would probably want to draft in a real draft, but it's interesting and I don't mind it. It just, I could see this being the best team in the league and I could see it being the worst team in the league.
Yeah, a lot of variance here, especially at the draft. But yeah, it's interesting to see, hey, what if I went with a lot of guys that I don't usually take? Would I end up liking the team? And interesting thought experiment that I think I did like it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, you got to open yourself up to, you think it's gross, but then you draft a team and you look at it and you're like, it's not bad. And then you open yourself up to drafting them in the future. Exactly.
It opens up your horizons a bit more.
Yeah. It's fun. But hey, well, that's going to finalize our draft. We have another next week. We'll have to discuss what we're going to do. It won't be a 12 team, but it'll be something different.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If you have any suggestions, feel free to hit up the Twitter handle there, Trust Your Board.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter, leave a comment on YouTube, whatever you want to do. And we will figure out what next week's mock's going to be. But until then, folks, trust your board.